What up, what up, what up? What's happening, people? How we doing? Try to get in, get out, so we can hear what Mr. Biden got to say tonight. But before you do that, I got a little something to say, too. And you know, if I say it, it must be true. So, while I'm waiting on y'all to get here, I'm going to do what I do when I do what I do. I'm going to kick off a little music. Let's just do that. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Express yourself. You don't never. What's going on? When you come on in the house, you say hello. Hey, Sandra. Hey, Frida. That's right. Let me know you're in the house. Who's that hiding in the wings? Holler at the brother. Holler at the brother. Oh, Gwen, you trying to hide? I know you short and everything, but do it good. But done up. Whatever you do, Lord. Do it. So what's up, people? How y'all doing? All right. Y'all, everybody good tonight? Do me a favor. Anybody check out the DNC this year? Last couple of nights. This is gonna be the last night of it, so we're gonna see what they're doing. Oh, in the jungle too. Everybody on the floor now. Go kangaroo. So let the horns do the thing they do. Spaghetti the bip bop. Take it down. What's up, Denise? Danny's? But everything don't mean a thing if it ain't the thing you want. Express yourself. Ow! No, do it. No, do it. Do it to 'em. Come on and do it. Y'all do it. Shake your booty. Drop is like your grandma taught you. Hey, skugga-doo-ga-doo-doo-doo-doo, skugga-doo-doo-doo-doo, skugga-doo-da-doo-doo-doo, Lord. A-E-I-O-U, A-E-I-O-U, sometimes Y-W too. Whoa, folks, this has been a good week. Just like this here, just like this here. Boom. Ba-da-dum. Ba-da-ba-da-dum. This is history, man. Let me go ahead and cut it. Folks, what's happening? What's happening, people? You know, hey, Miss Langley, how you doing? Good evening to you. When you come into the house, you know, most of us, well, if y'all behind ain't from the South, you people from the South. So y'all come in, y'all just say good evening, let me know, say hey there or something. Let me know you're in the house, otherwise sometimes I don't see you. Want to say good evening to everybody and welcome to the show. This is probably the easiest show that I've done so far, simply because all that I've been talking about, teaching, preaching about, all of that is coming to fruition. We got about 75 more days before we can kick this knucklehead out our house. We're looking for a new occupant at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. So the Dems finally doing something. They took the gloves off last night. One person in particular, y'all know who I'm talking about. And they're saying some of the things that I've been saying for the last 24 months, and specifically for the last probably 8 to 12 weeks of this podcast, intermittently. So what are they saying now? They're calling Trump out. They're reiterating and echoing some of the reasons why I say that Joe is the best person to take Trump down. I gave him a new name, by the way. I gave Joe the name the Trump Slayer. And I say he's the antidote to start a real conversation why Black Lives Matter and to explain Black Lives Matter, because our story is the true birth and soul of this nation that we now call America. Black people are tired and they're getting over it, okay? We're not welcome mats to be walked on. Black power is unique in that it allows us to love ourselves without hating other groups, ethnicities, races, or colors. Integrating Black people from all walks of life has resulted in greatness discovered in miraculous ways. Imagine no George Washington Carver, some of the inventions, and I had a list of them, but I won't go through them because I want to get this done so you guys can get prepped and ready for the last night of the Democratic National Convention. I want to focus on two things tonight. The first thing I'm going to focus on is one thing I've been kind of talking about, but I want to talk specifically about, because now that all the selections have been made, we're starting to see more and more commercials, so they're going to be targeting some of the things that I've been talking about. And that's what I refer to as the wild cards. It's those things, those opportunistic things that the Republicans do. And I want to do a quick recap of what's been happening the last 3 nights at the DNC, Democratic National Convention. So without any further ado, tonight's show is called 75 Days. 75 days before Election Day. Wild cards and a DNC recap. It really does my heart good to see some of the things I've been talking about, preaching about, and this whole political process. I said I started this because I wanted to write a book on public policy, and I felt like nobody that I really cared about would really want to read it. So to see all of this starting to materialize and you guys really energized, engaged, and enthusiastic, it really does my heart good. To see Biden, I've been saying this for so long. I've been saying this since like January the 20th of 2017 that Biden was the person. I understand he couldn't run right after Obama, but I just knew that he was the person to do what's going to happen right now. But one thing I want to remind us about, everybody's talking about, and they're excited, and though we should be, they're excited about him and Kamala, and, so I think I said her name right this time. To me, it's like Kamala, Pamela with a K instead of a P, but it's Kamala. They're excited about that, but the one thing I want to remind everybody about is let's not be caught up in the hype. Remember, they said Hillary was going to win, and it didn't happen. So when I talk about the recaps, I'm going to talk about two things that happened last night, two people in particular. One is Hillary Clinton, and the other is President Obama. But last night we didn't see President Obama. Though he was very presidential, we saw Brother Barack. I mean, okay, I'm going to say I would save that. Well, he reminded me of myself, and I was at home hollering at the TV like I was Little Richard. I said it first, and I was just excited. But it was good to see people take the gloves off and go at it. Here are some of the wild cards that I want to talk about. I pinned down 6 wild cards in this deck, and we have to look at this as a game of chess, but I'm going to talk about it like it's a game of cards, okay? We've got these wild cards in the deck, and one is that I'm going to talk about is Hillary Clinton. And the reason I'm talking about Hillary Clinton, because we keep hearing that she won the popular vote, but she didn't win enough electoral votes or delegates from the Electoral College. So what the talking heads and the prognosticators are saying is Joe Biden could win the popular vote by as many as, according to who you listen to, 3 to 6 million votes and still lose the election. This is important to remember because there are a lot of people out there that feel different ways. One of the things that we have to remember is for 4 years now, they've been bending, breaking, and stomping on the competition that I call the Constitution. That's been their real competition. The Dems have put up no real fight. So the only thing that they've been battling with is the Constitution and whether or not the things they're doing are constitutional or not. And they've gotten away with so much. But in the process, they've stacked the deck. They've put key people in key positions, especially in what we call battleground states. And by doing so, it tilts the thing in their favor. So forget what everybody says. If this is close, and I believe it's going to be close, we can lose this election. So remember that. This is not just about the popular votes. People keep saying democracy, democracy, democracy. In a democracy, each man has a vote, and it's tallied equally. In a republic, and that's what this is, think of the Pledge of Allegiance. To the republic for which it stands. I pledge allegiance to the republic for which it stands. This republic is really, a lot of decisions are made by this electoral college. They are the movers and shakers of the republic. So it really has to be a runaway election so that they can't do anything other than what we say. It has to be an overwhelming majority in Joe's favor. So that's the first wild card. So if you're not a fan of 45, if you know someone or you've lost someone to COVID-19 or Corona 20, because it's just going on and on, if everybody whose life has been negatively impacted by racism and the hate of the last 4 years, I implore you to vote for Joe and Kamala. Don't make a political statement right now. Now is not the time, We've got 2 horses in this race. So that's the first wild card. Let's not take it for granted and do anything. Let's everybody show up to the polls and vote. That's number 1. Number 2, this wild card is what I call the so-called progressives. This is this young faction of the Democratic Party who wants to push things, what they call, to the far left. And I say the problem with this is that they're just as intolerant as the far right. So I'm not a centrist. I don't even consider myself a moderate. I consider myself a realist. I understand that I have to be tolerant of you and you and you because we can have the same meal. I said it tastes great, and you said it had too much salt. The rice was this and that. So we have to be cognizant and we have to remember that there are other people caught up in this too. You understand? And we have to take their feelings into consideration if we want them to take ours into consideration. So Bernie Sanders and the so-called progressives is the second wild card. If you are upset that your candidate didn't get the nomination, your choice is simple. Do you want to vote for Joe and see a more perfect union? Or do you want to see the constant deterioration that we've seen over the last 4 years? So if you want to make that political statement, if you want to write in something, or if you want to be asinine and stubborn and write in somebody else's name on the ballot, you can do so, but all you're doing is hurting yourself. And you're hurting me in the process, okay? So everybody who's tired of COVID-19, who's tired of the hate, who's tired of all of the shenanigans, who's tired of Moscow Mitch and delusional Donnie, vote blue. Vote for Joe and Kamala. Okay, that's number 2. Let's go to number 3. Last night, Barack had I got something to say, and it must be true on him. I don't know if the brother came over here and had some of my red beans or some of my okra or what, but he was on it, and he was this far from saying, this mother, you know what I mean? And I like that. And honestly, it's the one reason why I never wanted to run for office, because I don't like to play those little silly games. I could be a chief of staff and get things done because that's what I'm about. But I'm not about the back and forth. I just don't have... I beat and grab somebody by the collar, and then they'd be like, oh, wow, you know? So Barack was talking about them cheating. And I've been saying this for the longest of the long. One of the things we disagree on, me and Brother B, is the mail-in vote. I still think the mail-in vote gives them too many opportunities to cheat. So what we have to think about as Democrats, what we have to think about as people that want to dethrone Trump is whatever they can do to tilt the balance in their favor. We have to eliminate that risk. We have to eliminate that possibility. So cheating and you know, in Barack's words, he said, he will cheat or do whatever he has to win and get the attention that he so needs. That blew me away, because that's something definitely that I've said and that I would say. So I applaud him for that. Last week I said that Trump's election in 2016 capped off the decade, and this election would define this upcoming decade. And I said the shift of balance of the Supreme Court would impact us for at least 40 years. Last night, Barack said, he echoed that same sentiment by saying this election will define this country for years, for many years to come. So if you don't listen to me, listen to former President Barack Obama. That's number 3. Let's eliminate the possibility of cheating. Number 4. Mail-in voting, and I can't stress this enough. This is going to be the biggest wild card because it just lends too many opportunities in 50 states plus territories. We're talking about Guam, we're talking about Puerto Rico, we're talking about the U.S. Virgin Islands. There are too many places where they can cheat by saying that they did not receive the votes on time. And we see what's happening with this new Postmaster General. So if you go to get your hair done, if you go to get your nails and toes done, if you go to the grocery store, if you're thinking about sending your child or your grandchild to school for 6 hours a day, you can definitely stand your behind in line at the poll and make sure that your vote is tabulated. The other thing I'll say about this, if you receive a mail-in vote. You can fill out that vote. You can sign that vote. And then you can take it in and make sure that they run it. There's nothing wrong with that. Nobody says that the mail-in ballot has to be mailed, okay? So what we're doing is we're eliminating possibilities of cheating. So that's number 4. Number 5, white women. And I've said this time and time and time and time and time and time and time again. Sometimes they're not as vocal. Sometimes they're a little bit more cunning. Sometimes they play the game differently. They may not say anything, but when they show up to the polls or not, they may do something contrary to what we think they're going to do. So they're number 5. That's the 5th wild card. Number 6, outside interference. We've talked about it. We've beat the horse till it was dead, resuscitated. We risen from the dead and we killed it again. We're talking about the Chinas. We're talking about the North Koreas. We're talking about Iran and Iraq, and we're talking about all these countries that see this country imploding from the inside, to see this government eroding because of somebody who don't know their butt from a hole in the ground, and all they care about, and I'm going to steal this one from Barar. He's right. He's behaving just like he's on The Apprentice, on a reality show. So let's think about that. I want to wrap that up. So let's go back. Our wild cards. Number 1, what Hillary talked about, winning the popular vote and losing the electoral college. So we can't take for granted that we live in a blue state, therefore we're going to make a statement. Regardless, let's vote like somebody said it last night, like your life depends on it, because it really does. We have no idea what's going to happen. So let's behave as such. Number 2, these progressives and people who were pulling for someone else, be it Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders or whoever, if you're tired of Trump, then you need to get on board. You need to do what you need to do. Number 3, cheating. Let's eliminate every possibility of him cheating. Okay? Number 4, the mail-in votes. If you go to the grocery store, go to the polls. Mask up, fill out your ballot, take it to the poll, and drop it off and make sure that it's ran while you're there. Let them check your ID and run the ballot. Slide it into the counter. Number 5 is the white women. We've talked about it. Number 6 is beyond our control. It's the outside interference. We can't leave anything to chance, folks. We just can't, Too much is at stake. Now for the fun part. The recap of the DNC. Now, this has been what I call an unconventional convention, and everybody's talked about that. In 2008, I was volunteering with the DNC, and I was in Kansas City. Now, Kansas City, Missouri, and Kansas City, Kansas, Mr. President, he is behind on know the difference between, he don't know what a Kansas City Chiefs is, so he didn't know that there was 2 Kansas Cities. But the 2 lie right next to each other, and what separates them is the Missouri River. So I was trying to get across the river from Kansas City, Kansas into Kansas City, Missouri, where my hotel that I was staying in, so I could watch the end of the election and the tallying of the votes. And as I got onto the bridge, people stopped. People just stopped dead. And I'm like, so me being me, Mr. Road Rage, I'm I'm hollering and screaming and blowing my horn. And when I start blowing my horn, other people start blowing their horn as well. So then I'm like, what the hell is going on? So I get out of my rental car and I walk up and I said, what's going on? Is it an accident or what? And people just start dancing in the street. It was about 8:07 Central Time. And they said they just called it. Barack Obama won. I said, say what? They said, yeah, man, we got our first black president. And I was like, yeah, maybe our last. I'm going to dance too. So we dancing on the bridge over the Missouri River in between Kansas City, Kansas and Kansas City, Missouri. And I said all of that to say this. At 11:09, so 8:07 Central is 9:07 Eastern. At 11:09, he was running against Senator John McCain, rest in peace, Honorable John McCain. And here's what John McCain did. This was part of his speech when he conceded, his concession speech. He says, these are difficult times for our country, and I pledge to him tonight to do all in my power to help him lead us through the many challenges we face. Just imagine if we had more Republicans like that. I think they did something to kill McCain because he was a thorn in the Republican side. And when McCain left, then we lost Lindsey Graham too. I guess McCain was Lindsey Graham's conscience. But McCain went on to say, I urge all Americans who supported me to join me in not just congratulating him, but offering our next president our goodwill and earnest effort to find ways to come together. And that's the thing that's been missing these last 4 years. Every policy, every decision, every executive order has been geared toward dividing and trying to spark up his base by stirring the pot of hate. So we got to get past that. The other thing they talked about was looking ahead. So last night we heard Hillary Clinton, we heard some of these other people, and I said two things last night. I said last night was for girl power. It was the most unconventional convention, and not just because it was all online. It was a different flavor, a different feel. It was about girl power. And as I was watching it, I posted, I said, this convention is for my daughters and my granddaughters. And I felt good about it. And then I went on to say, I wish my mom could have seen 2008. And then I said, I wish she could see tonight as well. Black mothers have always had these things about their sons because they know their sons were more at risk. But now that black women have entered into the workplace, they are open to the same atrocities and probably more than that we are. So I said all of that to say this. Of all the things that Kamala said, and I voiced my discontent with her, and now that I said it, I'm done with it, okay? And I think that's the thing about this political process. You're supposed to make your point. You're supposed to make your point, be enthusiastic and zealous about making your point, and once you make your point, you're supposed to back off and get to the civility of being a civilized citizen. And that's what's been missing. But of all the things Kamala said, here's the thing that resonated and stuck with me. She talked about all the women that came before, from Shirley Chisholm to some of the other women, and she gave honor to them, and that was fantastic. She talked about the HBCUs and all this other stuff, but when she talked about her mom, we saw her humanity. And I want hard to remember that. What would you do if your mom was watching as vice president? You can't, you have to be, and right for all people, but there are specific needs for some people. And that's the difference between equality and equity. If we're trying to go and see a jazz concert and I have $3 and you have $7, if they give you $3, you can get into the concert. I need an additional $4. That's the difference between equity. Equity is treating people, attending to the needs of people according to their needs. When she talked about her mom, she talked about these other women being heroes, but when she talked about her mom and her mom lofty ambition coming here to go to school and cure cancer, and then her mom succumbing to cancer, it struck a nerve, not only with me, but you could tell my mom's been gone since 1999, and I know what that feels like. Just like I was reflecting, she was as well. So I understand that. So I'm going to make this quick. I'm going to go ahead and say this, and I'm going to get out here so we can go on doing what we need to do to check out this last night. Moving forward. Last night, in his most presidential voice, Obama said it is our responsibility to hold our elected officials accountable. I'll sit it in front of TV, like I said, like Little Richard said. I said that first. I've been saying that. Nobody give me credit for it. But it's not about anyone getting credit. I don't care if I say something to you and you get somebody else the message. That's what it's about. Each one reach one to teach one. So I'm glad he said, because his audience streams much further than the few people that listen to me. So I didn't need it to be validated. I needed it to be spread. So we have to understand that it's our responsibility. I was reminded that it's not about who gets the credit. It's not about ego, because public service is about putting aside your ego to serve the public. It's not about the public serving you. You understand? And that's what's been happening for far too long, not just in the last 4 years, but in the last 4 years, they took it to a whole nother level, exponentially so. I'm reminded of a conversation, and I'm not name dropping. This was my proudest moment of all the days I had in my 41 years in medicine. When I was talking to Mr. Marshall, and Thurgood Marshall, and I said, Mr. Marshall, my name is Hank Batiste. I said, I'm here. I'm the manager of radiology here at National Naval Medical Center because of you and people like you. Your efforts made it possible for me to do what I do. And the man was in pain, and he said, what's your name, son? I said, Hank Batiste, but you could call me Hank. He says, no, I'm going to call you Mr. Batiste. And he went on to say, son, there's nothing special about me. I just did the best that I could with what I had. So if I could say anything to Joe and Kamala, is put your egos aside. You keep talking about this not being about you. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. We've seen the epitome of that for the last 4 years. We are trusting you with that fiduciary responsibility to serve us as best you can with the tools that God has bestowed upon you. So when Obama said what he said, he's right. We've got to do two things. First of all, we got to get him elected. So we got to put aside our petty differences and unify. Circle our wagons, get Joe and Kamala elected. The second thing we have to do, we have to hold them responsible for oversight and articulating to them what we need. Now, what we also have to do for them to protect them is we have to defend them from what we know is going to be the Republican onslaught that Moscow Mitch and the Repubs are going to do on November the 4th. November 3rd is election day. On November 4th, you know they're going to do the same thing they did when Obama was elected. They sat back and they thought of a plan on how to obstruct every piece of legislation that and every piece of agenda that he had in his vision, in his plan moving forward. So we know it's coming, and it's up to us to hold those other people that call themselves Democrats in Congress, whether you are conservative, a moderate, or a progressive. You need to be of one accord and make sure that you stand your shields in front of Joe. And if you don't, we're coming for you, okay? So that's what I have to say tonight. We must help them deal with the growing divisions within the Democratic Party. And we, as they said last night, if we do those things, we can venture towards a more perfect nation. So with that, I'm going to tell you guys good night. I'm going to say see you next week. Same Baptiste time, same Baptiste place. As always, go to my YouTube channel. Check me out. Sign up. Hit subscribe. And yes, tonight I'm broadcasting from both places. I'm on YouTube and I'm on Facebook. So I'm going to do this for a little while, but I'm going to start transitioning you guys to YouTube. So with that, it's always important. Love, peace. Check out your man's hair grease. Folks, I'm honored and humbled. Good night. Y'all be good.